All right, let's dive right into this tactical explainer covering the highly anticipated 2026 World Cup quarterfinal clash between England and Norway down in Miami. Look, we're staring at a matchup literally no one predicted when the brackets were drawn. But honestly, now that it's here, it presents one of the most compelling tactical chess matches of this entire tournament. Before we get into the heavy tactics, just think about the emotional stakes here for a second. These two guys, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, they are Arsenal teammates who just won the Premier League title together. They literally battled side by side to break a 22-year drought for their club. And now, just a few weeks later, they're fierce adversaries on the world stage, operating in the exact same area of the pitch. So, to truly understand how this game will be won or lost, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the quarterfinal showdown, move into the Rice versus Odegaard matchup, break down Norway's tactical decoy strategy, look at Tuchel's defensive blueprint, and wrap up with predictions and betting odds. Okay, Section 1, the quarterfinal showdown, reaching the Elite Eight at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium. Let's start by looking at how these two teams actually booked their tickets to this Saturday showdown, because the contrast in their round of 16 performances is pretty staggering. England showed just massive resilience. They played a man down for 36 minutes against Mexico at the Aztec and still survived a grueling 3-2 thriller. On the flip side, Norway absolutely stunned the globe. They didn't just edge out Brazil 2-1, they dominated the ball. They held 66% possession against the Seleção. So Norway isn't just sitting deep and countering, they are actively dictating the flow of the game. To give you a bit of historical context, the number 7 represents England's all-time wins against Norway. That's compared to just 2 wins for the Scandinavians, with 3 draws thrown in there. But as we all know, historical head-to-heads rarely account for a modern tactical anomaly. And right now, Norway is playing a brand of football that completely defies their historical pedigree. Moving on to Section 2, Rice versus Odegaard, the engine room collision. This game could very well be decided by 2 men who know each other's games perfectly. This right here is where the battle is won or lost. The big question is how Odegaard's relentless tempo setting is going to clash with Rice's defensive stability. Just look at these FIFA data numbers. Odegaard is an absolute machine. He's logged 3 assists, made an incredible 229 sprints, and covered over 47,000 meters. He's the heartbeat of Norway's attack. Rice, on the other hand, operates in that deep pivot as England's anchor. He counters all that movement with an elite 91% pass accuracy, controlling the tempo, plus his deadly set-piece delivery, which, remember, has already set up Harry Kane in this tournament. Make no mistake, Rice's presence is non-negotiable for England. He's been dealing with some lower back pain in training this week, sure, but he is essential to Thomas Tuchel's system. You can see from Tuchel's own words just how much he relies on his star midfielder to shield that backline. And honestly, Rice is going to need every ounce of that energy to deal with what Norway is about to throw at him. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, Norway's tactical decoy strategy, feeding the beast. Everything in Norway's attacking system is engineered for one specific purpose, feeding Erling Haaland. The guy already has a terrifying 7 goals in this tournament, but it's how he's getting those goals that's really fascinating. Breaking down the tape from their wins over Brazil, Senegal, and Ivory Coast, we see this 3-step manipulation happening over and over again. First, a winger like Shelderup or Oscar Bob hugs the touchline to isolate the fullback. Second, and this is the real trap, a Norwegian fullback makes a bursting, underlapping decoy run. They drive inside the winger straight into the half space. This naturally panics the defending center back, dragging them out wide to cover. In step 3, Haaland is left completely one-on-one in the center to exploit that massive pocket of space. It's structural manipulation at its finest. So with Haaland operating at this insane level of efficiency, we're left with the ultimate question. How on earth does Thomas Tuchel's squad actually stop him? You can't just man-mark the guy out of the game when the entire system around him is literally designed to tear your defensive line to pieces. The answer to that is in Section 4, Tuchel's defensive blueprint, nullifying the decoy. To beat the trap, England has to rewire their defensive instincts for these 90 minutes. It requires incredible discipline. Instead of chasing those aggressive decoy runs out wide, the center backs, who we expect to be Ezri Konsa and Mark Guehi, must stay unbelievably compact. We're talking about maintaining a rigid horizontal distance of just 7 to 8 yards apart inside the penalty box. If a Norwegian player darts into that half space, Konsa and Guehi have to communicate and hand off the runner. They absolutely cannot abandon the central zone. Interestingly, England actually holds a massive psychological edge right in the center of the pitch. Konsa has miraculously kept Haaland completely scoreless in their last 4 club meetings. And Gehi? After his January transfer to Manchester City, he's Haaland's daily training partner. He knows all of the striker's subtle body triggers and blindside drifts. But here's the twist. Jarell Quansah's suspension from his red card against Mexico means Jed Spence is likely stepping in at right back. That instantly creates a potential weakness on the right side, which is exactly the channel Haaland loves to drift into to receive the ball. So to keep those center backs locked onto Haaland, the midfield has to make a huge sacrifice. Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson are going to have to abandon their usual aggressive press on Odegaard. Instead, they need to drop deep into a compact mid-block. By defending the middle third and absorbing those decoy runs, they protect the fragile space between the fullbacks and the center halves. If they pull it off, they starve Haaland of service.
All right, let's wrap up with Section 5, predictions and betting odds. What the market expects.
With the tactical board set, the betting markets give us a pretty objective lens into what might actually unfold. The odds makers are heavily pointing toward a high-scoring affair. Both teams to score is sitting at -141. They clearly respect Haaland's lethal form and England's attacking depth. The market is also leaning toward over 2.5 goals at -135. But ultimately, despite Norway's giant killing runs so far, England's incredibly deep roster still makes them the heavy favorites to advance. You'd have to bet $215 just to win $100 on England qualifying. When we look at who's actually going to put the ball in the net, Harry Kane is the favorite. He already has 4 headers this tournament, and of course, he's lethal from the penalty spot. But the real betting value might actually be Jude Bellingham. He just casually dropped 2 goals in 3 minutes against Mexico. His signature late-arriving box runs could perfectly expose the Norwegian midfield if they push too high to support their own attacks. And then, naturally, you have Haaland, a guy who literally only needs a fraction of a second to punish a single defensive lapse. So I leave you with this final thought. If this match goes the distance, if we're pushed into the grueling heat of extra time in Miami, will Norway's total reliance on a single focal point be their undoing against England's battle-tested depth? Can Tuchel's hyper-disciplined defensive blueprint actually starve the tournament's top marksman for a full 120 minutes? It is quite literally the irresistible force meeting the immovable object, and it's going to be an absolute thriller. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and enjoy the match.